guidelines can be offered to help ensure accurate measurements of peak and average device energy consumption, and at what point in the battery voltage curve?
Both bandwidth and dynamic range are essential to accurate measurements. You might want to consider using a DMM for really quick and easy measurements of steady state sleep modes, because that's always a good baseline measurement. But for your real high bandwidth measurements with a high dynamic range, a DC power analyzer or a device current waveform analyzer. Depending on your accuracy requirements, you also might want to consider a purpose-built current probe for your scope, or maybe a device current waveform analyzer. And again, the software is key, right? Because it can take a ton of work and time to turn measurements into high-value insights. And that's where investing in control and analysis software or event-based power software can really be a great decision.
Is it true that the more you exercise the battery from full to empty, the longer the battery will provide a full energy source over the battery's life?
Yeah, that depends on the battery chemistry. For example, in nickel cadmium or NiCad batteries, as they're called, they have what they call a memory effect, where if you use only a relatively small amount of the battery before you recharge it, eventually you lose all that capacity beyond that relatively small usage level. And sometimes if you really try to empty the battery completely, you can actually damage the battery due to over discharge.
Does battery chemistry affect the instruments that measure life? And I'm assuming here, Brad, this would mean something like an SMU, a DMM, a data logger, a digitizer, something like that, right?
Yeah, or maybe a DC power analyzer. So as long as you're operating over the prescribed ranges and operating conditions, battery chemistry really shouldn't affect the instruments that measure battery life. But it may affect your test setup, though, in terms of the safety issues and the way that you protect the user and the way you connect to the battery. But once you get to the instrument itself, battery chemistry issues really shouldn't affect the instrument as long as the instrument's appropriate for the voltage and current and power levels and things of that nature.